Though we condemn it, cheating is without a doubt part of all sports. But then you look at NASCAR. For a time period, cheating was the sport. In a system where supposedly every car is to be the same and built to exact specifications, there is no way on God's green earth that competitive people aren't going to look for an edge. Whoever ran the cleanest race doesn't get to kiss the trophy girl. The winner does. Today, we're going to find out how many teams, drivers, and owners sought to find a nefarious edge out on the oval. And some even got away with it. NASCAR's most cheatingest moments is coming up right after this. I suck at a lot of things. I know I can't sing. I want it that way. And I'm terrible at social interaction.
How do you do, fellow kids?
But what I'm really bad at is managing my groceries. I'm in the store literally every night looking for something to make for dinner. Thankfully, there is a kick-ass solution for all of this. HelloFresh, America's #1 meal kit. HelloFresh cuts out stressful meal planning and prepping and can help workaholics like me get dinner on the table in 30, even 20 minutes, starting at just $5.66 per serving. I don't need to be in the aisles every night. I can have delicious, economical meals sent right to my front doorstep. Everything comes pre-portioned in recyclable packaging. Look at me serve this delicious family-friendly recipe. And managing everything is so easy through the website. You're in control. Pick your delivery days, food preferences, and add on extras. So after this video, head on over to HelloFresh.com. Use my code 5points10 and get 10 free meals and free shipping. Again, that's HelloFresh.com, code 5points10 for 10 free meals and free shipping. They can't do anything about your singing though. I want it that way. HelloFresh.com, America's #1 meal kit. Number 15, padding his stats. What happens when it's late in the race and you need a caution? Well, for Robbie Gordon, you use any means possible. With about 35 laps left in the 2003 Bass Pro Shops 500, a caution was issued when debris went out on the track. This yellow flag allowed Gordon to catch up and ultimately finish 10th. Problem was, that debris was padding from his roll bar, and Gordon threw it out onto the track himself. After a smug interview, Gordon says the debris looks like it came off the back of the car. Well, NASCAR wasn't fooled. He was fined $15K, docked 50 driver points, and 50 owner points. Number 14, wood is way better than steel. Tim Flock was one of NASCAR's first bad boys. He was a two-time champion, drove the Hudson Hornet, and once let a monkey co-pilot his ride. Perhaps one of his most famous adventures was when instead of having a metal roll cage in his car, he had one made out of wood. In 1952, he showed up to Daytona Beach to race without a roll bar. Bill France wanted to let Flock run, so he had some track workers build a cage out of 2x4s. It wasn't as intentional as it sounds. Flock won, but second place Jack Smith protested the treehouse, which was obviously much lighter than steel. Flock would be relegated to last place. Doc Hudson from the movie Cars was influenced by Flock. Number 13, Smokey if you got him. Smokey Euch was a cheating savant. In fact, you'll see him on this list again. In the early days of NASCAR, it was more about racing a stock car versus certain specifications. When fuel tank size became regulated, Smokey agreed to follow the rules. Only ain't nothing in the rules say how big the fuel line could be, as he installed an 11-foot wide by 2 inches in diameter hose, which allowed him 5 more gallons of fuel. Smokey was never penalized for this, as it was technically legal. The rules would obviously be changed. Number 12, a little extra in the coffee. You might want to get used to hearing the name Waltrip on this list too. In 2007, during qualifying for the Daytona 500, Michael Waltrip got caught using an additive to his fuel supply. It wasn't STP, it was freaking jet fuel. 2 crew members were suspended, he was docked 100 points, and Waltrip said he was so embarrassed he almost pulled out of the qualifying activities. Which he didn't, and finished 30th in the 500. Guess he wasn't that embarrassed. Number 11, the other Waltrip. The man who coined the phrase, "Buggity, buggity, buggity, let's go racing, boys!" was no stranger to cheating. Famed former driver turned announcer Darrell Waltrip used to pack BBs or birdshot into the hollow areas of his race car frame in the early 80s. During the race, he would pull a wire that would release the BBs all over the track and they would scatter.
except one time a crew member washed his car and the little balls got all sticky and they fell out on pit lane, hitting other crew members who were probably coked up. It was the 80s. Number 10, the punishment is better than the crime. NASCAR in the 70s were a wild time. Race inspectors were much like the Keystone Cops. At Martinsville in the early 70s, Fred Lorenzen got caught with an oversized fuel tank at 22 gallons, 2 gallons over the limit. And since he agreed to replace it, he also knew the inspectors would not bother to re-inspect him. So he installed a 28-gallon tank. Nice one, Fred. Number 9, the RealLife Spy Hunter. This one is probably more old racer lore than truthful, but it's too good not to include on this list. Early in NASCAR legend Ken Schrader's career in the 80s, he found himself leading a small track race in Seattle. With his tires wearing and his opponents gaining on him, Schrader pulled the pin on his fire extinguisher and placed it between his legs. The other racers figured he was about to blow an engine and slowed down, assuming they would need to get around him, but instead, the smokescreen gave him just enough time to pull away. I can't find any actual record of this, but I put it in here as a decoy. Number 8, speaking of Smokey, my boy the Cocky Euch finds himself on this list again. Before inspection, Smokey would jam a basketball into the fuel tank, inflate it, and the car would indicate the tank was full while weighing the accepted load. Then he would deflate the ball and replace it with fuel and get 2 extra gallons. Gee, sounds complicated as hell just for 2 gallons. Smokey also won a race by making a 7/8 size version of a car, though that is debated. Number 7, the great ones cheat. At the start of Jimmy Johnson's 5 consecutive Cup Series wins, he got caught cheating. Well, sort of. Johnson won the 2006 Daytona 500, but after passing the post-race inspection, it was discovered that crew chief Chad Naus had modified Johnson's rear window with a device that allowed it to be adjusted. Johnson was allowed to keep his trophy, but Naus took a month-long suspension and got hit with a $25,000 fine. Naus would get suspended a bunch more times, too, for other stuff. Number 6, I'm in charge here. Robbie Gordon makes it back onto this list, this time for not being a good listener. While racing in Montreal in 2007, Gordon took the lead late but was spun out by Marcus Ambrose. The tower ordered him back to 15th, but Robbie Gordon said F it and lined up at number 2 during the caution. Then, under green, immediately spun out Ambrose and took the checkered, even though he was black flagged. He even did burnouts alongside official winner Kevin Harvick, though Gordon was listed as finishing 18th. He would be fined $35,000 and was forced to miss the Sprint Cup race the next day. He still considers himself the winner of the 2007 race. Number 5, this might ruffle a few feathers. NASCAR has seen some great diversity in the last few years. Juan Pablo Montoya, Darrell Wallace Jr., and letting a small child race. But in the 1960s, amidst the civil rights movement, Wendell Scott emerged as the first ever African-American full-time driver on the circuit. Well, if that didn't turn a few heads, him winning a race might, which is what he did in 1963 in Jacksonville by 2 full laps. Except Wendell wasn't on the podium, nor did he take the checkered flag. Buck Baker did. After a post-race tally, it was discovered that Scott was the true winner, and 4 weeks later he was declared so. Baker never contested the correction. You could say it was an honest mistake, but this was 1963. Scott is enshrined in the NASCAR Hall of Fame. Number 4, brilliant but dangerous cheating. The 60s were a wild time. Back then, competitors needed to hide their cheating from each other. Since everyone knew the other teams were cheating, they developed ingenious ways to hide fuel so that their opposition wouldn't find out and tattle on them. According to journalist Bob Moore, crews would hide fuel in the roll bar, frame rails, in the fuel cell, dashboard, pretty much anywhere. Most of the time, the extra fuel dumped directly into the carb or gas tank, either for a boost or better fuel economy. Obviously, this was dangerous to put fuel in the door next to the driver. It's unknown if there were ever any serious repercussions from this practice. Number 3, better to be pissed off. Okay, not a NASCAR race, but involving David Pearson, and so damn funny I had to include it. In the late 60s on the Trans Am series, Pearson got caught with a trick fuel tank that wouldn't drain all the way. He was ordered to empty the thing to completion before he was allowed to race. So rather than doing that, they got a bunch of the crew to stand around the tank and relieve themselves and make it look like they had drained said tank, which all of them did do, apparently. Number 2, above the law. When your nickname is the King, you get away with a lot of things. In 1983, Richard Petty, basically NASCAR's Wayne Gretzky, cruised to an easy victory at Charlotte Motor Speedway. But after an inspection, they found that he used his left side tires on his right and his right side tires on his left. How sneaky is that? His engine was also 30 cubic inches larger than it was supposed to be, about an 8% increase in size. Petty was only fined and was allowed to keep the dub. And now for our last most cheatingest moment, I'm gonna turn it over to NASCAR YouTuber Jake Baskinger to break this one down.
NASCAR has come a long way in trying to eliminate illegal car modifications, but they can't always regulate driver behavior. At the 2013 Federal Auto Parts 400 in Richmond, the cheating ran much deeper than they thought. 3 teams were involved in 2 separate but related incidents which greatly affected the outcome of the race and playoff standings. Joey Logano and Martin Truex Jr. both needed some luck to get into the chase, so instead of waiting for it, they made it happen. On lap 393, Clint Bowyer, Truex's teammate, intentionally spun out, helping Truex gain spots while other cars pitted during the caution. Joey Logano also benefited from the spin, caught up to the field and passed David Gilliland. More on this later. Both racers made the chase, while Ryan Newman and Jeff Gordon got screwed. Suspicion was raised immediately after an examination of replays raised questions of the spin's intention. After an investigation, NASCAR penalized Michael Waltrip Racing, where have we heard that name before, $300,000 and suspended crew chief and GM Ty Norris. Bowyer and Truex were docked 50 points, knocking Truex out of the chase. Front Row Motorsports and Penske Racing were both penalized as the earlier mentioned passing of David Gilliland by Joey Logano on the restart was rumored to have been paid for. After all the dust was settled, the wrong was made by the right by adding Jeff Gordon to the chase and expanding the field to 13. Of course, none of this mattered because Jimmy Johnson won it all in the end. Cheating is complicated.
Thanks for that, Jake. Everyone, please subscribe to his channel, and I hope you check out our sponsor, HelloFresh, from the link below, and use my code 5points10 and get 10 free meals and free shipping. I'm 5pointsvids, and you made it to my next video. Hey, I did a NASCAR video. Woo!